Oracle just fired 21,000 workers to bankroll its AI bet, and even that was not enough. Oracle just fired 21,000 workers to bankroll its AI bet, and even that was not enough. The company laid off roughly 13% of its staff, dropping from 162,000 employees down to 141,000. The goal was clear: free up cash to fund a massive $300 billion computing deal with OpenAI. But the numbers did not add up. The company is now fighting for its survival, and the rest of the tech world is watching closely to see whether this massive gamble on artificial intelligence will pay off or leave Oracle weakened for years to come. The context here is a historic spending frenzy that is reshaping the entire technology industry. According to an article from the Jerusalem Post covering the story, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Meta are all expected to spend about $600 billion on AI infrastructure during 2026 alone. That is an unprecedented amount of capital being poured into chips, servers, and data centers in a single calendar year. But as the article points out, this spending spree is already eroding cash flows across the industry. Companies are betting everything on AI delivering profits, and the timeline for those returns remains unclear to investors and analysts alike. At the center of this story is Oracle's $300 billion contract with OpenAI. Oracle became a primary provider of AI computing power under that deal, which means building out massive data center infrastructure to supply the enormous computing capacity that OpenAI needs to train and run its models. The Jerusalem Post reports that constructing those data centers caused a severe cash squeeze for the company. A $300 billion commitment is not something you can fund from existing reserves, especially when you are already spending heavily on the construction and hardware required to deliver on the agreement. To fund the rapid expansion, Oracle took aggressive efficiency measures that went straight to the core of its operations. By the end of fiscal year 2026, the workforce was slashed by about 21,000 employees, a decline of roughly 13%. The deep cuts followed an operational restructuring driven in part by the internal adoption of AI technologies. But as one Reddit commenter pointed out, laying off 21,000 people does not necessarily mean you are funding a boom. It could just as easily mean you are covering huge losses and trying to stay afloat while you bet everything on the future. Here is where things get really tight for Oracle. The company is involved in planning a massive data center near Port Washington in Wisconsin, meant to supply computing power for the OpenAI contract. The facility is nearly 1 gigawatt in capacity, which is enormous for a single site. But the Wisconsin Public Service Commission refused to ease the financial collateral requirements that apply to large power consumers. Under local regulations, a data center operator whose S&P credit rating drops below a - is required to provide collateral covering the electrical infrastructure built for them. Oracle fell below that threshold. When the collateral requirements were reviewed, Oracle's S&P rating stood at BBB and was subsequently downgraded to BBB-. The rating agency attributed the downgrade directly to heavy AI spending and uncertainty regarding the ability to generate profits from it. As a result, Oracle is now required to provide cash collateral, or a letter of credit, in the astronomical sum of over $7 billion just to connect the building to the power grid. That is $7 billion on one data center alone, sitting in escrow while the company is already stretched thin from its $300 billion commitment. And that is not even the end of the financial picture for Oracle. The setup for that power grid connection will cost the company more than $100 million annually in ongoing maintenance costs on top of everything else. Oracle petitioned the court against the requirement, arguing that the collateral burden is unsustainable, but the project is now in genuine jeopardy. A company that just cut 21,000 jobs to save money now needs $7 billion in collateral and $100 million a year just to keep the lights on at one facility in Wisconsin. The Reddit community reaction has been sharp and skeptical across multiple comment threads. One commenter described a circular arrangement where Oracle pays OpenAI $10 billion. OpenAI buys $10 billion in NVIDIA chips, Nvidia invests $10 billion back in OpenAI, and OpenAI buys $10 billion from Oracle again, creating a loop of interconnected deals. Another commenter wondered if these companies are digging their own financial holes on purpose, so the government has to bail them out later. A third noted that 21,000 layoffs in 1 year would have been a sign of an unhealthy company decades ago, but now investors bury their heads in the sand. The AI spending frenzy is starting to bite back in ways nobody expected. $600 billion across 4 companies, massive debt loads, credit downgrades and billions in collateral requirements. This is the operational reality behind the polished presentations of the AI boom. Whether this ends like the dot-com crash, the financial crisis, or a controlled expansion remains to be seen. Oracle fired 21,000 people to bet on AI. The question now is whether that bet pays off. Subscribe for more deep dives into the companies reshaping our future. The AI spending frenzy is starting to bite back. $600 billion across 4 companies, massive debt loads, credit downgrades and billions in collateral requirements. Subscribe for more deep dives into the companies reshaping our future.